Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be speaking about dating, and this is something that I have never said anything about before because I feel like my opinions about dating are something just very personal to me, but I wanted to have a few discussions about it and wanted to share it with you. You may or may not like it, and that's honestly not my responsibility, but I wanted to make it clear that these are just my personal opinions and my experiences and observations. So this was very impromptu, and I was just watching Materialist and decided to vlog this. It's very absurd. Honestly, a lot of people don't like the movie, but I liked it. Although it's not very impromptu because I wrote down a few things that I wanted to discuss in this vlog concerned with dating or men in dating. When I say men in dating, I just mean how men act or react in relationships. Because honestly, personally, I do not have many guy friends, so I don't understand men. But like from my experience through speaking with them or going on dates or having a boyfriend, which is not much. So I don't think that I'm the most eligible person to advise, but this is not an advice video anyways. This is just a discussion. I just wanted to discuss about what I know about men. First of all, I want to make it very clear that I'm not going to talk about any social media bullshit like high value men or women or feminine energy or masculine energy. I mean, of course, every person plays a certain role in a relationship. Like a woman has her own role, and this is not according to the gender roles, but like just what a person does in a relationship, because we are not totally completely equal. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about all of that bullshit because I feel that it really restricts a person, and I believe you shouldn't take that advice from people who speak on that. But I will talk about some non-negotiables that everyone should consider. Let's start with something very important and very normal: age and looks. So, do age and looks matter? I think it totally does. Just as your personal interest, just as your personality and your vibe, age and looks do matter. If you're dating someone who's like around your age or older than your age, there will be a lot of generational gap or some things that you won't be able to relate to or understand. For the girls who have daddy issues or are just attracted to older men, do you actually want someone who's older, or are you actually attracting emotional intelligence and maturity and some kind of comfort and structure? Because I'm a person who is very free, very like expressive. I'm definitely this age modern woman, but I am very traditional in the sense of dating, I would say. Not exactly, but sort of. I am like 30% there, you know and I really value comfort, stability and structure. Maybe not a lot of people want that in their life, but I would say that someone who's attracted to older people, they want that kind of emotional intelligence and stability in their life. So I think instead of going for older people, you would definitely want to be with someone who's more emotionally intelligent and mature and who understands and grounds you. With looks, I don't feel like we need to discuss more about it, but we know that a lot of girls who are like very, very attractive are always with a guy who is like mid ugly. That's the term that is used on social media. I wouldn't really call a person that, but yeah, that's the social media term. And personally, I never believed that looks matter before, unless it's to me. Of course, I can like I care a lot about my looks, but with a person that I want to be with romantically, I don't think that it used to matter before. But I do feel like physical attraction and emotional intimacy play along with each other. Someone who you are physically attracted to, you may not be emotionally attracted to or vibe with well, and someone who you are very emotionally attached to may not exactly be physically attractive. And there might be some compromises there. A lot of girls do that, like, oh, but I love him, or he's just such a good person, I see the good in him, and they just turn completely blind towards that person's behaviors or their looks. I'm not saying that looks are entirely necessary, actions are. 6. This is something very risky to post or talk about because I know my family is watching me, but I'm going to say it anyways because I want to discuss it. So, as you know, I love the series Sex and the City. It's my favorite rom-com series. And it's based on like 4 women and their relationships and their lives in New York City. So, there was a post on Instagram about Charlotte. And as you know, she's a very conservative, I wouldn't say it entirely conservative, but she has very traditional dating values. And there was a comment under that post about Charlotte saying that most men wouldn't even care about women's pleasures, and they wouldn't even have sex if they did not get their own orgasms, but women do not have that same outlook towards it. And I would just say that be with a man who tries to understands you in that way and cares about your pleasure as much as he does about his own. I feel very immature right now because I'm only 20 years old and I'm pushing 21 in like a month. So I'm basically 21 and I'm speaking about this, and I know that when I look back at this video I'm going to cringe a little bit. As I said, that I am a modern woman with traditional values, sort of. I would just say that, there's a lot of casual flings and all of that stuff going on right now. And I'm not against it, but that's not something that I would do. So yeah, I'm like completely, entirely the type of person who would just date to marry, because I am that controlling person who wants a lot of emotional and mental stability in their life. And I know that a lot of girls do as well, rather than guys. What I have witnessed between girls and boys of my age. So, like, we are all in our 20s, right? I think guys look for adventure and freedom, and I don't think they're actually looking for falling in love. But girls, at least half of them that I know, they are more prone to finding someone who they can love, who loves them, and settling down. And half of them just want to be single, like me. Honestly, I voluntarily want to be single and celibate for my whole life, because I just feel like dating is not a necessity. So I might not be the best person to speak on this, but this is how it is. In the Indian society, there's a lot of things. When you say traditional, there are a lot of things like family approval and sometimes caste. I am entirely against that. I don't think that family should be entirely involved in the marriage or dating. Okay, this is getting a little bit too serious. I was just going to talk about dating and not marriage. But I feel that caste should never be a reason to stop anyone from doing anything. And when it comes to family, of course, it does impact who you're marrying. Maybe not during dating, but when you marry someone, you do get involved with the family. Unless that person is actually taking your stand and making a position for you in that family, I just feel like you should not marry someone who is such a mama's boy. Yeah, who only listens to his parents. I feel like when you're at that point of, settling down and actually starting your own family, I think guys should really take a stand for their wives. I think that is a man's responsibility to give authority to the woman, and he should let her lead her own life. Because a woman should not only be a wife or a girlfriend or a sister or a mother, she should be herself. And men are allowed to do that. They are a man before they are a father or a son or a husband. And I think that women should also, have that kind of attitude that no, I am before anyone else. You see, a guy always puts his family before his wife. So he puts his first family before his second family. And this is something that I have seen in my own family, is that my dad puts his family before us, which is never something that I would expect in my own marriage or even in my relationship. This is a little bit too serious, but it's a non-negotiable. As I said, that I would be discussing that in this video. So I will discuss your ego and the man's ego. So let's discuss about our own ego. Before you talk about, oh, I don't have an ego, let's discuss about the real meaning of ego in psychology. So the definition of ego is, the ego is the part of your personality that helps you make practical, rational decisions. It acts as a middle ground, balancing your instincts and desires with your morals and conscience, the superego. And this idea comes from Sigmund Freud. I won't be discussing about Freud, and I'm not a psychology student, so I'm not going to go into the actual meaning of ego so much, but I'm talking about self-image and your rationality and your ability to make practical decisions. So the ego is basically your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is a very attractive source. It is not in the sense of like actually attracting something, but it displays your personality. So if you have this kind of image of yourself in your mind, that you are this insecure person or anything less about yourself, then that becomes you. So it's very important to make sure what you think about yourself. It's the idea of self-image. It's not completely related to the ego, but it's correlated. So I have noticed myself that the way I think of myself, the way I display myself to others, is how others see me as well. If I see myself as this person who is talented, creative and smart, everyone else will see me as so, and I will act like so. If I think of myself as someone who is lesser than, as someone who is not creative or not smart enough, my subconscious or my conscious mind will trick myself into believing that I am that person, and my actions will reflect into it. And how does this showcase in dating? I believe, as a design student, that you design your own mind and your own personality. It's like, before we design any space, as an interior designer, that's what I do. We visualize and then we execute it. So every morning or every day, every month, every year, you visualize yourself. You have this perception of yourself, and then you execute yourself with your actions and your behavior. And the impact that it has in dating is that when you think of yourself as something, you attract the people who want those things from you. I have only been in one relationship so far, even as a 21-year-old. It might be too less for someone or too much for someone. That is not my problem. I feel like it's completely fair that I only started dating after I turned 20 because I wanted to live my childhood. But what my experience with this self-image was, during that period of time when I was in the relationship, I was going through a huge, like a very much vulnerable time, and I wasn't exactly insecure within myself. I was very confident about myself, but I was not confident about my surrounding or my relationships with people. With my family or friendships or my relationship, I had this insecurity that if they do not like me, it's my problem. With my self-image, I did not have a problem. I believed that I was beautiful and talented and creative, but when it came to being a friend or a sister or a daughter, I always believed that there is something wrong with me. I never questioned the other person, but I always questioned myself. And that is where this plays a huge role, because my ex-boyfriend, he was very manipulative. He would act the sweetest person because he knows that that is what I seek for in a partner. But when time came, when he was in the wrong, he would blame me for stuff. And he knew that I would blame myself too, because I always questioned myself and I never questioned the person in front of me. He was the type of person who studied me very well. He got to know me very well. And I saw it as, oh, he cares about me. He wants to know about me. That's why he is studying me so well. But he was actually just doing that so that he could manipulate me. And that is something that I have experienced not just in relationships, but also in family dynamics and in friendships. I will always like attract or stay in relationship. I mean, this is my past. This is not my present. I actually have a really good relationship with myself and with my family and friends that I have currently. But in my past, I was easily manipulated. And it was because I questioned myself too much. I blamed myself too much. And it had impacted a lot through my family, because I was always blamed for every single thing that happened in my family. Now, as you know, even by what Fruit said, that your family dynamics and relationship do affect your future relationships, and I believe that it is partly true, because the way you were treated as a child is how you see yourself growing up. Maybe not entirely, but you have this perception of yourself and you make this identity of yourself with your subconscious mind. Like, all the things you hear, all the things you see, it becomes the norm for you to see and react to it. So you attract those kind of people again and again, not knowing that it is actually harming you. Now, I wouldn't really talk about how to break the cycle, because I am breaking the cycle myself by learning how to not be manipulated by people. It is not an easy process. I believe that in the Indian society, a lot of families are like this. A lot of parents are so manipulative with their kids, and that is just how the kids turn out to be as well. They either turn to be the manipulators or they turn to be the victims. I am not an expert at this, but what I would say is that you should never fall into words. You should always observe people's actions. Words can be always sweet, but actions will show a person's true personality. What am I even saying? But yeah, you get the point. Okay, wait, how did I just come from self-image to manipulation? The only difference you can make between manipulation and love is that love shows true actions, genuine actions, which are consistent, which are not repetitively harming you, and manipulation is just words. It's just words of, yes, I'll do better, but not actually doing. That is one way how you can get out of you know, a manipulative relationship with your friend or with your partner. The question that I'm going to answer is, how is self-image and manipulation correlated, and how did I just go from self-image to manipulation? So I just wrote this down, that weak self-image makes you more susceptible, more submissive, and more easier to manipulate. If you have this kind of weak self-image where you'll always question yourself, you will fall into, I mean, obviously other people also fall into these relationships, but they know their worth. But people with low self-esteem, they often are stuck in these relationships where they will constantly question themselves. And for manipulators, this is the kind of person that they are looking for, who will feel stuck and who will constantly question themselves and not question the manipulator. This is how self-image and manipulation is correlated. If you have a very strong self-image and confidence, and I'm not saying overconfidence, but if you know who you are, if you know what your actions are, if you believe that you are a good person and you do good, then manipulators won't really come at you and use you as a bait. They resist themselves because they know that you are not an easy target. And this is entirely not your fault if you were a victim once. This was just how, a few circumstances and experiences, or maybe even more abusive circumstances and experiences, shaped you to be. But you can always break that pattern, and I did as well. Now, you are not born easily with this low self-esteem. That manipulation probably started with your family or with a friend, or maybe with someone who was there in your life for a really long period of time. And the thing is, manipulation can reshape your self-image. The longer you are with that person who manipulates you, it will impact how you look upon yourself. And like long-term manipulation, it completely erodes your sense of self. It will make you feel lesser than. That manipulation that makes you question yourself, it will erase your sense of self. It will erase your sense of reality as well. You will question not just yourself, but what actually happened. Have you ever had that time where you confronted your parents about your behavior, or confronted your boyfriend or your friend about your behavior, about their behavior, and they will just be like, I don't think that ever happened. No, that was not my purpose. I don't think that was my intention. And they will completely dismiss you. This will not only erase your sense of self, but also your sense of reality, and you will start questioning the reality as well. And it's honestly just a cycle, how poor self-image leads to manipulation, and manipulation lowers your self-image. So I would just always, tell you that stay away from people if you notice these kind of patterns. And I know it's really hard to cut your family off, but you can always, move away if you have the option to. What is the difference between self-respect and acting or playing hard to get? Before self-respect, what is self-respect? Honestly, self-respect only comes from self-awareness, knowing about yourself and knowing what you want, knowing what you need. And playing and acting hard to get is, I feel like it's a thing that people who have lower self-esteem do, because they want to act like they are very hard to get. And I'm not saying that people who do that are awful or anything, but I just feel like people who want to play games, focus on the games, like these are people who do not actually care about self-respect. They just like the chase, they just like the withdraw, the push and pull method, and they just like the attention and the detachment of that dating style. You know what I mean? If you are the type of person who knows what you want and what you are not playing hard to get. You are just setting boundaries that, listen, this is not what I want in my life. As if Someone who wants something casual just walks up to me and be like, oh, this is, I'm interested in you and whatever, but this is not what I want. So I would just be like, I'm not interested. You seem like a nice dude or a nice girl, but this is not something that I'm looking for in relationships or in life. So I'm sorry, but this is not what I want. It was nice meeting you. Then you are placing a hard boundary that is your self-respect, that you know what you want. But if you are someone who actually does want casual and someone does approach you in that sense, and you just play hard to get because you like the attention, you like the chase, you like the push and pull, then I mean there's nothing wrong with that. If you do so, I mean I bet that must be fun and exciting, but you're again setting up yourself for that cycle where you attract emotionally unavailable men or guys who only like the chase. Guys who only like the chase, but they do not like the journey of actually being with you. This is about male ego. You know how? Because men who like that push and pull, who like chasing, and who like women who play hard to get, they don't actually like that woman. They like the thrill of chasing a woman, and they will do that with any woman, like even when they're in a relationship or not. So basically why they like the chase is, they want that thrill of chasing a woman, and as soon as she actually accepts and says yes, they're like, oh, I can easily get her. See, it's that easy for me to get that woman. And the thing about these women who play the playing hard to get game, maybe they do it for their own thrill, but the women who don't understand, who just listen to these social media gurus, dating gurus, and just play like hard to get game, they don't understand is that at the end of the day, you're only going to attract these kind of guys who are emotionally unavailable, and they will always chase that thrill of trying to get a woman. They are not actually there for you. They are there for their own adrenaline rush and their ego feeding. And these guys, they will literally do anything to get you. They would do anything to get you, and it might make you feel like, oh my god, he really wants me. But that's not what that is about. It's more about going to extensive lengths to get you, just to treat you like trash in the end. And this is not your fault that that guy is treating you like that. I'm just saying that he should never play hard to get just for the thrill of it. It's actually sort of attracting the red flag. Okay, so I used that tone a lot of times where I said that you will attract this kind of guy. Let me just make it clear that it's not your fault that you will attract these kind of guys. I feel like these kind of guys go to all types of women. That's not the point. But it's more about recognizing patterns and behaviors and avoiding those men. So if you did not know about these patterns or these men, it's totally fine. It's not your fault. But now that you know, since I am telling you, you can totally avoid it. And trust me, I know this for sure that I am right about at least this thing, because ego is something that I have observed and noticed in so many people. This is not just in dating style, but this is in a lot of areas, in all kinds of relationships. There are a lot of guys in our age, in our generation, who have this commitment and attachment issues. They have like this fear of intimacy, right? And like being in a relationship for them means like a vulnerability and accountability and like a real intimacy and depth. And I feel like guys fear that a lot. Like they don't want accountability, they don't want like vulnerability. And I feel like that does repeat a pattern from all generation, because in the traditional dating, not dating, marriage values, I would say, it was never a man's responsibility to take care of emotional needs of the family. They always thought that, I'm not saying that this was how it should have been or how it, I mean, it's how it was. This is how men thought, like their only responsibility is to make bread and butter. So that's why I feel like, because of that emotional unavailability from their fathers and even our fathers, it has made them feel like, it's not really their responsibility to be emotionally available for you or hold themselves accountable for those actions where they're hurting you or even doing something completely shitty. Addiction to dopamine. I don't know if it's because guys have test whatever that hormone is, but yeah, they are so addicted to that thrill. So I just feel like everyone has their own addiction. Maybe some people have with food, maybe some people have with alcohol or drugs, some guys have it with dating and chasing women. So I just feel like that chase is exciting for them, so that's why they keep on doing that. And maybe the same thing with that same girl does not happen, because women usually with a healthy or a very anxious attachment style don't have that same kind of dopamine, right? They choose depth. They want depth and emotional vulnerability, and that's exactly what these guys give in the beginning and not after they are done with you, like they are done chasing that thrill. Now this is also about their self-image. So sometimes guys only date a prettier woman or any woman because they believe that they can get. It's more about their toxic masculinity and how they believe like, oh, I can get that girl, maybe my friends cannot. They do have that competitiveness between their friends. As much as I know, guys are very much competitive, maybe within their own friend group or maybe within their girlfriends as well. This is another self-image topic that I will talk about. So being competitive with your own romantic partner is something very weird. I don't understand why guys usually do that, but I will explain you how it showcases in a relationship. There are certain types of men, okay? I mean, I'm not reducing them to these types. Of course, there are many types of men, but I'll tell you, there are these competitors who feel insecure in front of their romantic partners. There are these men who are actually caring and giving and providing for their women, and there are these partners that just take greedily from their partner, okay? And I will talk about the insecure ones who are competitive, who showcase themselves as the really nice caring ones, but they are secretively insecure and highly competitive, and they want to steal what's yours without even letting you know. So some men have this kind of need to be at the top, the alpha male, whatever. It's so cringe, but yeah, some guys actually want to be that kind of person. And when they see a woman who's more successful, more confident, and more emotionally established, emotionally, financially, physically established than them, they feel inferior. And men do not want to feel inferior. These guys, these insecure guys, they do not want to feel inferior, so they will make that girl feel inferior in all kind of ways. They will slut shame, say a lot of things, right? That is their ego and insecurity. Now, why would you make someone feel inferior? Why don't you, like, you as a person, if someone is better than you, you would maybe envy them, but usually you would be happy for them, right? The thing about these people, not just men, I think there are a lot of women like that as well, but the reason why they make you feel inferior is because they do not want to lose their relevance and their position. What they think about themselves is someone who is very reliable, very confident, and very talented. But if you are something more than that, then they will always feel dimmed down, and they don't want to feel that way. And instead of bringing you up, they bring you down. This is why some people who are always like, always date a man who has more of an established social position than you, or maybe who is more financially independent and stable than you. Why do these people keep on saying about men having more than you? Is because a man who has less than you, usually he feels inferior and he wants to take that away from you. Maybe not take it away from you, but make you feel lesser than for having those things, because he cannot control himself, his own actions, so he wants to control you. Just so you know, love is not supposed to feel like a competition, and your partner should not be your rival. He should be someone who brings you up all the time and who only wishes well on you, whether he has less or more than you. So I'm not entirely saying that you should be with someone who has more than you, but you should be with someone who cherishes who you are and what you have, and who respects you as a person, and he only wants to support you. Someone who celebrates you, someone who supports you, and someone who comforts you when you are actually feeling vulnerable. Now, some women may not even want these things like emotional vulnerability. They just want to marry a rich man, which is completely fine. I feel like everyone has such different necessities, and what they want from themselves or from others in a relationship is very different. And I feel like you should chase what you need, what makes you feel sophisticated, and what makes you feel complete or incomplete. I don't believe that a relationship is the only thing that can make you feel complete. If you want a relationship, if you don't want a relationship, if you want a partner, if you want to only date to marry, that is all up to you. What are the things that I've discussed are only the non-negotiables, because a lot of people don't notice these patterns. And I believe that a lot of women are the manipulators in relationships as well. It's not always women that are the victims. So maybe this might be a video to help men as well to break these patterns of manipulation. But this was specifically made for women by a woman, because I am a girl who has only had heteroromantic relationships, so I only know relationships from the perspective of a woman towards a man. About high value men and women, that is such a saturated term. I have always hated and cringed at those terms, and I block every single page that talks about that. First of all, who decides what and who is high value? And why are we reducing a person to a value? Aren't we not different people with different needs and different desires? Why are we talking about value? And why is certain behavior and certain social or financial position determined to give you this term of what kind of value you have? So usually this high value term is depending on money, social status, and looks, right? In social media, that is what it means. But in reality, what values are supposed to be are respect, kindness, loyalty, and empathy. I think that is what value should mean, and not the looks, money, or whatever. I mean, of course, looks and money matter. As I said before, money matters a lot when it comes to dating. When you're coming from the same financial background, you tend to have the same similarities, the places you go to eat, the kind of lifestyle you live, and the kind of hobbies you possess, the things you are interested in. So I feel like financial background plays a lot into friendships and other relationships. But I don't believe that this is what explains what kind of person you are entirely and what value you hold, because that is something that nobody else from any economic class, any financial position can possess, is your own morals and your own values. That is only what comes from a person and their own understanding and their own empathy. Dark and light feminine energy. What is dark and light? And why is it like two opposites? So like dark is supposed to be someone who is very bold, very seductive, and light is supposed to be someone who's very, I guess, submissive, or someone who is very soft, someone who is nurturing, I believe. Those are just traits of some women, and those are really great traits actually, everyone has their own personality. But why do you want to be like dark or light feminine energy? And why not just a person who's bold? Why not just a person who is soft and nurturing? And why do you want to reduce yourself again yet to a term used on social media like dark and light feminine energy? You are an individual. You are a human being, not a candle to be dark or light. You can be bold and be soft at the same time. You can hold that kind of empathy and nurturingness, and you can hold that kind of seductiveness at the same time. Why do you want to reduce yourself just to, there's nothing wrong with only being one side of one part of those things like dark feminine, but I feel like you shouldn't really base your personality over these things, like attract these kind of men when you have dark feminine energy. I think that's a very weird term. We don't really need mystical labels for like basic human qualities. I'm not going to speak more about this because I just feel like it's not even that important to speak about. Let's talk about masculine and feminine standards or gender roles in a relationship. First of all, let me make it clear that these masculine and feminine standards in dating are very regressive, very misogynistic. And I'm not saying that choosing to be a housewife is regressive or misogynist. And that's not what I mean, okay? I wouldn't lie that I do want to be taken care of. Not exactly by a man, but I do like to be taken care of. And I think that is a feminine trait. But I think it's very outdated to, label these traits to a gender. And this is not about gender fluidity or, man or women. And I'm not even trying to be modern or progressive right now. But I just feel like, these roles really limit you to a lot of things. Usually TikTok, social media, Instagram, they always want to like romanticize this trad wife and all of that stuff. And I just believe that it is so regressive and harmful for women, especially more than men. What you're not realizing is that you are like actively seeking out men who will have control over you. If you're giving financial power to a man and completely not looking after yourself, then you are giving him so much control over you. And I just think that that is just so harmful. And you should never let that happen. And it's not just about, not having a job and, being taken care of. I feel like you should still have a job that maybe does not even earn more, but just for you to have your own identity and to, be independent. A lot of women in the Indian society have heard like, oh, what do you even do? You just sit at home. You don't do anything all day. And it just does not end there, There are so many awful things heard by women every single day. Like even younger girls, they are just told like, oh, you're just gonna grow up and get married. Why do you have to learn all of these things? Why do you have to know all of these things? The man will take care of these things. And I feel like these newer social media standards are just promoting this behavior, but in a more romanticized way. When you want a man to be dominant, more of a provider, and more statistic and less emotional, And when you want a woman to be submissive, nurturing, and like dependent on the man, you are just like, telling them to perform a role in the society. Didn't we literally fight for freedom for women? Why are you romanticizing this like as if, it's such a great thing to just be under a man and look after a man? It's not that good. When you actually do it, it's actually quite terrible. Maybe try, taking care of your father or your brother one day, and you'll understand how exhausting it is. These kind of roles historically were designed to keep women submissive, dependent on men, so that they could not go out and choose for themselves. A woman who is independent socially and economically is seen as undesirable, and these masculine feminine standards make this like this narrative like they are undesirable. If you are more nurturing, more dependable on your man, then it's very desirable. I'm speaking this again, that I am not at all against the narrative of being a housewife and choosing to take care of your needs. But giving up your whole life and taking care of someone like your husband and your kids it's such a outdated and misogynistic role. Like, how can you just always expect a woman to just give up her life and like be so selfless all the damn time? I think the people who always make these kind of reels and content about feminine and masculine standards, they don't really understand how hard it is for both the genders. Like, it is regressive for women, and for men it's just like the same old thing where they don't really express themselves truly. And I'm not like a person who's like there for men's right, but honestly it is regressive for both, and you are just promoting those standards, those old standards that we are trying so hard to get out of. When I say this, there is like the key difference of choice and coercion. If you're choosing to lead that life of selfless, because obviously being a parent is being very selfless, and yes, being a mother and a father both is being very selfless. You have to put your kids before anything else, and I believe that it's both the role of a mother and a father to take care of these responsibilities of a child, but that's much later into life, right? But when you talk about these feminine and masculine standards where a woman is like this or that, you are genuinely just restricting yourself to that standard of homemaking and nurturing, and you are pressured into that it is a woman's duty or it is a man's duty. Of course, being soft, gentle, kind does not mean that you are giving yourself into patriarchy. What I mean to say is that real partnerships only work properly when both the partners are fluidly switching roles of responsibility. Okay, I think I talked more about men than dating, which was not initially my plan. I'm so sorry. Let's talk about dating more. So me and my sister talked about this once, right? So she told me ki people who use dating apps are usually sociopaths who don't know how to interact with people in real life. That's why they go on dating apps for seeking connections. And this creates the illusion of connection. I feel every social media and dating app creates the illusion of connection. So yeah, she is very right. And this must be controversial to a few of you, but like, this is just the truth, alright? Because of this social media and apps, or just using a device to connect with people, it becomes so easy to connect with people sometimes that people treat it as like a disposable thing. People treat connection as if it's something that can be discarded at any time. People take connection relationships less seriously because of this modern dating. I think this is why in dating or in friendships, people don't take each other seriously so much, or they don't communicate properly, or they just cut each other off for no reason on just smaller things, small arguments, and I feel like there's not much left to say between people because they don't seek out for that depth. And there's nothing wrong with not wanting depth, but I feel like communication is necessary in all aspects. Dating also feels like, creating the perfect image of yourself on social media or even in front of people. Like, usually in colleges, if I see, people are only with each other because they look good together, or I don't know, they don't really want to connect. It's like you are dating the performance of girlfriend and boyfriend before you are dating the person. If I'm very clear, you are just dating to be a girlfriend or a boyfriend. You are not actually dating to be a partner, to be a lover. And during dating, there's like so many emotional games and these unspoken rules or whatever, like, don't double text, don't text these days, or don't do this or don't do that. I just feel like you shouldn't be this nonchalant. I mean, I don't think that humans were meant to be nonchalant, and I feel like you should really just express yourself. The true essence of dating is only when both of the partners are being truly themselves with each other. Obviously, I don't mean that you should be entirely obsessive with them, but you should be allowed to be yourself with your partner. And these games and these rules are really reducing you into a machine who is only dating for the performance of it, who is only dating so that you could acquire someone and not actually be with them. This dating style only is like a strategy with, like, playing with each other's egos, and I feel like we should really just let it be. Besides, you should be persons before and then partners. And these strategies, they are rather more ruining you than, like, fixing you or making you feel more balanced. Trust me, if you keep on thinking so much strategically about when to text, or how much should you text, or what you should talk about, you're actually just giving yourself an excuse, like, you are being practical, but that's not true. You think that being practical is saving you from being played, but it's actually ruining you so much because you're not authentically being yourself. So I am not on either side. I do not like traditional dating and I do not like modern dating. I do not like either of them because traditional dating was too rigid. Women have no freedom. Women should only date to marry, or what. We did not even date. I mean, in India, did you actually really date? I mean, it was just like arranged marriage, just, and it was very awful as well. I don't believe that arranged marriage will fix you, or that you will find your perfect love match. If some people believe that arranged marriage is the only way to find your lover now, maybe you will find a good person, but that does not entirely mean that your life partner through arranged marriage is someone who is your soulmate. And it's okay, you can always just only seek out a life partner and not a complete soul bounding soulmate. That's fine as well. But I just feel like it's too rigid and too soon to decide that someone is good for you or not. You should at least get to know the person for like 2-3 years before you actually go around and like marry them, right? And in modern dating, I just feel like there's no connection, there's no depth. And again, there is nothing wrong with that. It's all up to personal choices. But I just feel like there is this illusion of connection, and there's just so much strategicness, which I really feel like it's breaking bonds between people. It's making people less sociable, is what I would say. I think we should all find, I mean, if that's something that you are chasing for, I think we should all find a middle ground where there is clarity between two people, there's mutual respect, and there's love, and there's respect, and there's genuineness, and there should be vulnerability as well. I do not support the traditional dating standards or the modern dating standards. I like something that is in between. So as I said before, like, guys of our generation, they're not really looking for someone to settle down with. They're more likely like looking for an adventure. They're not looking for someone to love. And girls, I mean, it's vice versa. Obviously the roles can be reversed as well. Girls are looking for love and whatnot. And yeah, I am that person who is very expressive, very free. I do not judge people for their dating choices or anything. I believe that everyone has their own, and I do not want to be judged for my own choices either. And like, I just believe that the reason why I don't have I'm not in a relationship, or I voluntarily choose to be single, is because I just like more structure, more emotional stability than adventure. And everyone thinks that because I am so expressive, because I am like this modern woman or whatever, the proper cliche of being a modern woman, whatever that is, everyone thinks that I am a very thrilling person, very adventurous person, which what, I don't actually. I mean, I like adventure, but I'm more of a homebody. I think it's in all aspects, even in life or in dating. I am someone who craves for emotional depth and intensity and stability and structure in all kinds of things. So yeah, I'm like a mix of both those things, all of those things. And I feel like it's very necessary for you to find what you want as well. Like, now I'm getting to know myself, and I feel like the more you know yourself, you will find a person too. It's not always about strategies and like playing games and just settling down. I think it's always, when it comes to dating, it's always about finding about yourself and learning about the other person as well. It doesn't always have to be an end game. So I feel like if you treat dating as a journey more than just like an end game where, okay, I'm going to settle down with this person, or this is the only thing that I want out of this relationship, I think you'll learn more about yourself as well, because it's not like saturated down to like just one thing. So honestly, do what you want with this information. I think while talking and touching my hair, it's become more frizzy. Anyways, I'm going to edit this video now, and I think it's going to be much longer than usual. But you know what, I wanted to make a long video where I discuss about things like these. So as always, thank you for watching my video. If you like my content, if you like hearing me yap or not hearing me yap, because I do both of those things, if you like that, hit like, comment on my videos, and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.